The state of Texas lifts more COVID restrictions, and it's happening during a time that thousands of people gather in the streets protesting for justice in the death of George Floyd. Joining us today to talk about both is Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Thank you, Governor, for joining us.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
You know, before we get to the latest on the Phase 3 reopening, let's begin with George Floyd. On Tuesday, you held a press conference to update the state's response to violent protests and also calls for unity and peaceful protests. What does that effort look like today, and what plans are being made for funeral services and also burial for George Floyd in Houston next week?
So listen, the protests continue, and the goal in the state of Texas is to ensure that peaceful protest, where people exercise their First Amendment rights to complain about a system that led to the death of George Floyd. That is what America is all about, is giving people the platform to exercise their First Amendment rights. That said, the First Amendment does not allow people to throw bricks through glass windows or to destroy or steal somebody's property. And as a result, the state of Texas and the Texas Department of Public Safety are working with local law enforcement officials just to ensure that their peace is being kept at a time while people are out protesting.
Now, in a statement again on Tuesday, you stated, "We will seize this moment to bridge the divides that exist in our state so that we can keep Texas the greatest state in America." Now, many words on this issue have been spoken in the past, action taken on it over the years. Some say things have changed for the better, and then there are still some senseless acts of injustice happening. So how do you see the state addressing this? Where do you begin? Who's involved? And what will the goal be?
Sure. Well, from my perspective, obviously what our work would entail would be legislative work done at the Texas Capitol involving legislators, including those in the Rio Grande Valley. As you kind of pointed out, Texas has been a national leader in criminal justice reforms that I have signed into law. The Timothy Cole Exoneration Commission that works on exonerating people who are wrongfully convicted, mostly people of color. Also, the requirement that peace officers wear body cameras so it shows to the public everything that they are doing, as well as the Sandra Bland Act to address mental health issues of people who are arrested. So there's so many things that Texas has a legacy of doing, and we need to continue that legacy. In this case, as an example, we should evaluate what types of standards law enforcement do use when detaining an arrestee to ensure that they will not be killing someone the way that George Floyd was killed.
Well, let's get now to the Phase 3 reopening, and what's happening now on the streets might have something to do with the progress of the Phase 3 reopening. Do you see possibly some setbacks because of just a large gathering of people in not only Houston but in other cities around the state, a surge in cases of COVID-19 because of those gatherings, and also you take a look at law enforcement, and they have been deployed in many of those areas as they go back home and rejoin with their families. How do you see this playing out? Do you perceive a problem with another surge?
Listen, we recognize the reality that when you have thousands of people gathered together as closely as they are for as long as they are gathered together, that is the type of environment that could lead to a transmission of COVID-19. As a result, beginning on Monday, we will be deploying around areas of the state testing capabilities where these protests have been taking place, so that we will be providing the ability to do more extensive testing in those areas to identify whether or not there has been any increase or spread of COVID-19.
You know, since the Phase 3 reopening, actually, it's probably a little bit prior, but we've started to see an increase in daily reported cases here in the Valley. In Hidalgo County, hospitalizations have doubled since the Memorial Day holiday. Have you seen this, or is this a concern as the reopening moves forward, at least here in our region?
So understand this, and that is we have dramatically increased the amount of testing that's been done, and we have focused on areas that are categorized as hotspots. Hotspots are areas like jails where we have been going in and testing everyone in the Texas prison system, and we're about 2/3 of the way through with that. The positivity rate of those in jails is far higher than it is among the population that is not in jails. Also, we are about complete with testing every nursing home in the state of Texas, as well as meatpacking facilities. Those three categories are hot spots that we send surge response teams to address the potential increase in those testing positive. And what we typically see is an early increase in the number of people testing positive, and then an eventual decline and those testing positive and those who need hospitalization. That's exactly what we expect here also.
Governor, real quick, a couple of nursing homes in Cameron County, they saw a lot of cases, a lot of deaths. Tell us how that surge team has gone in there and made a difference looking ahead and trying to contain the spread of COVID in those facilities.
So we have a keen focus on nursing homes because the elderly are a vulnerable population. We have teams that go in and do testing, and they separate those who test positive from those who test negative. They care for those who test positive, make sure those who test negative don't contract it. Then we have the National Guard go in and they sanitize the nursing home so they can get rid of any COVID-19 germs to make it a safe place for residents to live. And they also work to improve infectious disease control practices.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, we thank you for joining us this evening. You've always been accessible and be very transparent on what's been going on with COVID, the state's response, and so forth. So we hope to hear again from you soon. School's going to be starting. We have summer school going on, the fall. You know, a lot of questions with that. So we hope we get a chance to discuss that with you in the near future.
Sure, we'll be back. Thank you so much, and you all be safe.
You too.